going on, guys? T2RX6 here, back for another Transformers third-party review, and today we'll take a look at part 4 of 6 of the 7-part review of Hercules. And part 4 is the wonderfully named Dr. Crank. So, like usual, let's go and look at the box. This is actually my least favorite box art of any of we've gotten so far, because he just looks so happy, and I love this figure, and anything I can say about this figure is he's not a happy looking guy, and that's just way too happy. Of course, on the back you got his 3 modes here: robot, alternate, and torso mode, and then just some product shots on the side. Inside in the back you got that same product art, just kind of, you know, oversaturated a little, so it's more like it's sketched almost. And inside the box you of course got the instructions in the card, which I'm just not going to show because they're not that interesting. Now inside the box you get Dr. Crank, and you get his boom separate. Now the boom is pretty interesting, so let's look at that real quick before we look at anything else. There's these back pieces here, which I don't think anybody really knows what they're for. You do have the telescoping hydraulics here. It extends really far, actually. And the interesting part, the reason I wanted to point this out, is just because a lot of what's going to happen with Dr. Crank and what he can do is hinging on this bottom plate here. So most of the time when you rotate it, it's going to rotate by this peg. But you also have this additional rotation down here, which as you can see is going to offset how this is going to sit relative to pieces of Dr. Crank. So we're going to put it like this, because this is the one that holds it the furthest back in his alt mode. You'll actually see this is going to come in handy when we actually look at the bot. But before we go and look at the bot, we got 2 other little accessories, and they come attached to this. You got this little piece here, which can't help but notice that it looks kind of like a barrel, the very end of a gun, and that usually plugs in right here, and you got the hook assembly right here. Now I don't really like how this particularly looks. I think it breaks up the figure, so I opt to just keep these to the side for now. I could deal with only having this in place, but to have both of them sitting there kind of stinks. You can rig it up. I'll talk more about that a little bit later, and it would look a lot better rigged up, so I really got to get to the point that I can get the string to do this. But enough about this, let's actually talk about Dr. Crank. And I just love this guy. I mean, this one so far is my favorite of the Constructicons. Let's zoom in on that face there. Look how unhappy he looks. Now, how did the product shot get it so wrong? You know, when he has such that mean looking look, he's unhappy, doesn't want to do his job, he's ready to go home and call it a day. That's how I look, you know, on the end of my work week. I just look like that. I'm ready for the weekend. So this guy is awesome. I just love him. He oozes character. You can take his back assembly here and you can plug it in like that, and it's important, like I said, you have the hook on the bottom, because if you don't, you can see that it's going to outdo his feet. And this actually gives him some extra support, not that he needs it at all, but it also makes a big difference, because when you take this off, he's rather flat looking. So this added little bit really helps out fill out his proportions. In terms of our articulation here, you can't really get a full rotation on the shoulder. You could, I suppose, if you try, but you're going to end up ruining some plastic in the process just because of how it's formed. You do have an up and down, which is part of the transformation, but hey, I suppose you can use it. You do have the rotating, I don't know what that's called, your bicep, I believe. I don't know, I'm an engineer, I'm not an anatomy person. You got the elbow here, which from certain angles can look a little bit weird, but it's not too bad. This time his fists are stationary, they are not movable like they are with most of the other guys. Down at the bottom here, you have a leg which can only go up to about there because of how the wheels block it. And then it can move forward and back, of course. And back is also limited by the back here. So he is a little bit more limited in articulation. You do have a knee assembly, a swivel, and he can get quite the knee movement there. So that's pretty good. And that's about it for the articulation, other than, I guess, his head, which we didn't address, which just goes left and right. And it can go at 360, and in fact it needs to for transformation. Now he does come with his two guns here. We'll talk more about them a little bit later. And the last thing that we can do is we can take off this backpack. And you'll see he's got these pegs here, and he's actually designed, and again, this is key, we gotta rotate this out of the way, and you can actually take it and you can plug it in up there. Now I'm not really sure what the purpose is behind that. Even with the rigging, it's kind of weird. It makes him super, you know, front heavy. He wants to tip over. I actually have to push him a little bit so he's leaning backwards. But, yep, there he goes. You can do it. And it just fell off. Now some people make him plain because he doesn't really have any toes. When you stick him down, that's all he's got. But that doesn't really bother me too much. I think the overall quality and aesthetic of this figure is just so great that counteracts anything. And he does have really good light piping. Unfortunately, because of this back piece here, it's a little bit blocked, so you don't quite get the effect as nice as you do on the others, just because of how it's blocked by the back, which is a little unfortunate because he does totally have my favorite face of all these guys. So let me take this, and I'm going to put this back and rotate it here. And we'll just put it back. Whoops, I did it the wrong way. See? This is why it's key to figure out which way this needs to go. Actually, no, I didn't do it the wrong way. There you go. I was just looking at it the wrong way. So let's pull in the rest of the Constructicons here. I'll bring out my next favorite, which is Structor. And then we'll go to Heavy Labor. And finally we'll bring in the guy who started it all, X-Graver, who is just not holding up as good anymore because the aesthetic just gets better and better with each release, it seems like. Now, I don't know if that's going to continue. Frankly, I don't think so. I do like Mixmaster. He's always been one of my more favorite Constructicons. I just like the truck. Hook was always my second. And I guess we're still waiting for Bone Crusher / Neckbreaker. And I don't know. I don't anticipate liking Neckbreaker as much as I like Structor and Dr. Crank, but I can see liking Mad Blender at least as much as Dr. Crank. So you can see they look really nice together, and I really like that the proportions are all different. Like, some people may say that, you know, he looks too ape-like, and you know, especially Heavy Labor, and then you got the more streamlined look of Dr. Crank and Structor. But they're all construction vehicles. Each one of these guys has their fair share of bulk somewhere on them, dependent on their vehicle forms, which really makes them different. And they all just ooze a certain sense of personality just because they're all varied and they really feel like they could be construction guys. Now, like I said, he comes with his black and his purple gun. Or I'm sorry, his red and purple gun. I painted him black and left the red see-through there just to get a little better detailing. And let's just take a quick look at the gun. And you have that here, and you can see where I left it red just so you get some translucent through. Now, unlike his purple gun, this gun actually needed a little bit of modification to sand this down, and I actually had to go and sand down X-Graver a little, and it wasn't because of the extra paint. Like, the way these guns fit together, you couldn't lock these in. It was just not formed right. And I don't know if that's going to be with everybody's or just mine, but it doesn't happen with the purple, only the red gun. So let's get these guys aside, but let's steal their guns here, just so we can show this before we take him on to his vehicle mode. Now, some people were wondering if it was a coincidence or not, but as TFC told us, their guns would be able to combine. Now, if you look at the picture online, which I put in my last video, you can see how everything combines, and it's actually all in the order that they were released. So you can start with this, but this will be the top. We're going to put that aside for now. Then we take the gun that came with long haul, and we'll take the gun that came with Structor, and we'll plug it in like this. And then we will take the gun that came with Dr. Crank here, and we will plug it in like that. Now, you'll take this, and you just plug it in the top. And this is where I had the problem, because you see this little piece of Dr. Crank's gun has to mate with this connector, the lower piece of X-Graver's gun. And so you can see you got the first released, the second, the third, the fourth, Neck Breaker, and Mad Blender. So they're actually all in order, and I don't think that's a coincidence at all. Some people seem to speculate it is, it just happened to be that way, but I'm pretty sure TFC knew what they were doing. Let me show you that again here. So just plug this in. You're gonna plug in the other gun here. Whoops, I did it the wrong way. And you can see if you did it the wrong way, because the molding of Dr. Crank's gun will butt up against the molding that's on Structor's gun here. And if you do it the wrong way, it quite obviously looks off. So you put it like that, and then you take X-Graver's gun, you put it on the top, and you can see it just slides right in real nice, which this one still probably needs a little bit of work. But you still got the gun starting to form, and you can actually see right through. Interesting enough, the only one you can see through is the X-Graver gun, which is interesting because it's working as the sight for this laser cannon. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But let's put them to the side now, and let's take a look at Dr. Crank as we go to his vehicle mode. So to start, let's just go and take this out of the way. It's just in the way. We can finish with that after. Next, let's take his head and spin it around. Now if you noticed on the side of his head, he had like almost like these little ears. These are important for how his hands are going to connect together. And let's go down here, because I always forget about these, and let's just put these little purple things in. And these are just to give them some extra stability. They are awful to get in and out. I need a screwdriver to get it in and out, or I'm gonna like rip off my fingernail in the process. Take this, and we'll rotate these wheels on in. So once we have that part, what we're gonna do is his shoulders here. And these are always the hardest part. You can see that they have to rotate this way. So we know that these pieces have to be upwards here, but you already know it can't really fit very well like that. So what you have to kind of do is rotate it up and spin it at the same time. And then you're gonna see that this little head tab that I showed you, like an ear, is gonna plug in to the side there. And then what you can do is rotate his arm so it's like this, and you'll just kind of fold it all in together so it's real tight clamped down, and you'll see that it's gonna plug in to that peg right there. So again, we take this up, you know that the wheel has to go this way, take it up, rotate it around, and plug it in. I find it hardest to get these things into this ear hole, or the ear peg, or whatever you want to call it. I like to call it the ear thing. Collapse this down, plug that in, and you got a pretty neat rear of the truck. That is Devastator's head. We'll get to that after. Take this and squeeze his legs together, obviously. Then what you're gonna do is kind of rotate his legs down a little and make sure that these purple assemblies in the legs are coming with it, because if you just bend them at the knees, which is the tendency, it's not gonna work out. So you gotta kind of make sure that this whole purple assembly comes with it, and you'll see how once you rotate the legs around, it's basically just gonna clear, and then rotate his legs on up, and you got these little black pieces to lock in the front, and you're left with that. Then all you have to do here, and this is probably one of the neatest little pieces, is that these front little knee guards actually just slide down on the track. So you kind of have to grab the bottom and push the top a little just to help ease it in. And you get a really nice looking you know, truck. And all you're gonna do now is take this, and like I said, make sure that your pin is facing forward, because that's gonna separate you from the Devastator head the most, to give you the most range of movement out of the truck. And there you go. You put it on, and you've got him in his alt mode. So once we've got him into his alternate mode here, you can see he's a really nice looking crane. Pretty well detailed. This boom assembly does telescope out extremely long. So you can see you can get a pretty good extension on it. Now there is a way to rig up the boom assembly to attach this little hook piece. It stores like right here on the side, but all the rigging that you need is there, or all the rigging pieces you need to buy the threading. Small threading like sewing thread doesn't work. It's way too thin. You need some thicker string so it stays on these pulleys a little bit better, but it can be done. I'm gonna link to a video on YouTube here by the username 13 Ghosts, and he actually shows how to rig the order you need to go with this, so I'm gonna link to that. This other little piece that you had here, that usually is just sitting here stored on one of the sides like this, and what it's for is actually when you put it in the back here, if you put it the right way, you can plug it on in, and that lets you turn this back assembly. And actually what it's supposed to do is, if you push it all the way in, it'll lock it in place so you can actually hold stuff. Now it's pretty weak. There are things you can do with these rear bars here that I don't think anybody's terribly sure what the purpose is, these guys. To lock whatever in with this, you kind of put it in and you mess with that to keep it from rotating. That I believe is also shown in the 13 Ghosts video. And I've also seen this guy is capable of holding a lot of weight on this boom. Someone actually rigged it up where he was holding Primus, and then they just had some counterweights on the back to keep him from tipping over. So it's pretty impressive. So let's bring in the other Constructicons here, just so you can see how they look together. And unfortunately, we're starting to run out of space to put all these guys, because they're pretty big, yeah, 6 almost Voyager size guys. So here's the 4 of them, and you can see they look pretty nice together. They definitely make a good looking construction team display on a shelf. Size pretty nice. They look like they're pretty close to being in a proper scale with each other, and I like it so far. I mean, I think they really complement each other well. And the one thing I want to show here now, like you had these ever since X-Graver, this particular port, if you really wanted to, and I don't know why you would, but hey, you could. You can rotate this bottom plate, and you probably have to take this off here. But you can actually plug all this into X-Graver if you really want, or the top of Structor has the same port. You would just need to take this off. So you do have that option of putting this assembly on the other Constructicons at this point, except for long haul. But let's get back to focusing on Hook / Dr. Crank, which is just the best name ever. Now, the little posts you see down here, really the point of these are they're used for the combiner mode. And they're almost impossible to get down without, you know, some assistance from a screwdriver or anything. But if you've ever seen these real cranes, when they are actually lifting their loads and stuff, they're actually off the wheels. So essentially, that's what this thing is representing, is the putting those stands down, which is why there's 4 on each side, or 2 on each side for a total of 4. Now, you will end up using these for the combined mode. This particular one, I'm not entirely sure what its purpose is. that one, I think we've just got rumors flying around on what to do. So let's just go ahead and get him into his combined Devastator mode and finish this up. So easiest thing to do is going to be to take this off. Now what we need to do, the way this is going to fit all together, we're going to want this facing back like that, but his head is going to be in the way like this. So what you want to do is just kind of grab this base plate and rotate it to the side. You'll see when we put it back in, it's going to be offset there, and that's going to give his head room to fit. So next what we're going to do is pretty easy. We'll flip out the head here, and we'll just kind of leave it like that for now, and then take this and just split it in half, and you'll see that everything will fold in together like this. There's a little gray clip on the top here, and we're going to fold that over, and that's going to lock these two pieces in place. Now we don't need these two out here, so we can fold them back in, and then you're going to need these on the side. So we'll fold these on out, and that's going to be obviously where the arms are going to plug in. And you can just see just how stiff those assemblies are. And you'll take his head and you kind of twist it around and you'll rotate it down, and you'll see there's the tab there, and it's shaped for that ball joint holder. You put that down, and let's just save the head just for a couple minutes, and we'll just put this right on here. And you'll rotate his head on up, and you've just got a very mean looking Devastator. Look, he just looks unhappy and disgruntled, and I really like how that ends up looking. I would show you the entire combined mode, but I need something that we can have that 7th Hercules video. So for now, you're just gonna see this mode right here. So I hope you guys enjoyed the review. I will see you guys next week.